But if you would, turn to Revelations chapter 19. What are you being invited to? If there's an invitation, that means there's something that is going on, or some place you need to be, or some place that you can be, that somebody wants you to be. You're invited over to somebody's house, it's because somebody wants you to be there. Hopefully everybody wants you to be there, but at least somebody wants you to be there if you're invited over to somebody's house. If you're invited to a party, it's because somebody wants you to be at the party. Jesus invites you into his kingdom. So what does that mean? It means he wants you in his kingdom. Otherwise, there would be no invitation. You don't invite somebody that you don't want to spend time with. The weird thing is Jesus wants to spend time with everybody. Sometimes it's hard for those who have already received an invitation and answered the invitation to understand. But understand this, if you are not a Christian, you are invited no matter what you have done in your life thus far. You are invited into the kingdom that he has prepared. And in Revelation chapter 19, we get a brief glimpse of things. Verse 14 says, "And the armies which are in heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, were following him on white horses. From his mouth came a sharp sword, so that with it he may strike down the nations. And he will rule them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierce wrath of God the Almighty. And on his robe and on his thigh he has a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried out with a loud voice, saying to all the birds which fly in mid-heaven, Come, assemble for the great supper of God, so that you may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of those who sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free men and slaves, and small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth, and their armies assembled to make war against him who sat on the horse, and against his army." That's verse 19. In case you don't know who the King of Kings and Lord of Lords is, that is Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God. He is on that horse. And the beast and the armies that fight against him are Satan and those who refuse him. And they're making war. Verse 19, they have assembled to make war against him who sat on the horse and against his army. Verse 20, and the beast was seized, with him the false prophet who performed the signs in his presence, by which he deceived those who received his mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. Those two were thrown alive into the lake of fire, which burns with brimstone. That was a fast war. So in case you didn't understand what just happened, the beast and the entire earth and all of his armies rose up to fight against Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God, and instantly lost everything. And so if you are not in the king's army, you are on the wrong side. There is no war that you're going to attempt. It will be over the moment you attempt it. Satan has no such power to contest with Jesus, the Christ, the Son of God. And it doesn't matter how many people want to stand behind him, they have no power either. It'll be short, decisive, and the consequences eternal. And so in chapter 21 of Revelations, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is among men, and he will dwell among them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be among them. Remind you of something? You'll read about that very relationship in the very first chapters of Genesis, when God walked with man in the garden. And he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will no longer be any death. There will no longer be any mourning or crying or pain. The first things have passed away. And he who sits on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new. And he said, Write these words are faithful and true. And he said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give to the one who thirsts from the springs of the water of life without cost. He who overcomes will inherit these things. I will be his God, and he will be my son. But for the cowardly and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and immoral persons and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their part will be in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. But what a great place to be if you are not one of those people. And that's what the invitation is for, to be in a place where God himself will walk next to you. The creator and master of all things walking next to you. There will be no tears, no aches or pains, no sadness, no mourning. All that will be gone. That's what God invites you to. That kind of relationship. To be with him forever. To be his people. To be his children. If you are not a Christian, I beseech you to follow the invitation. If you believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and you are ashamed of the sins that you have committed in your life, and you want to repent, to change what you've been doing that has been sinful, and to seek after the things which God has set for righteousness. If you're willing to confess that, yes, I do believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and declare it before other men and women. If you're willing to be immersed, buried, just like he was in a tomb, but in water, to rise up out of that water just as he rose out of that tomb, then you too can walk in newness of life, and you will have accepted that invitation to one day be with him. If you are a Christian and you found that you have slipped on that road, you let go of the hand that was guiding you. You've turned your back on the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Turn back. So long as you have breath in you, you can return to him, and he will take you. And you can ask for forgiveness. And the church was made so that we could help each other walk that path to heaven. If you have a need, come forward as we stand and sing the song which has been selected.